You Should Have Left was written and directed by David Koepp and stars Kevin Bacon and is about a man and his family. They go to a secluded house in Wales. He's had a difficult past. There's a crime that some people believe he committed, but he has always maintained his innocence. And while they're at this house, strange things start to happen. Writing appears in his notebook that he's positive he didn't write. Hallways seem to stretch on endlessly, and a mystery develops about the house that he tries to solve. I was really looking forward to this movie. I'm a fan of David Koepp. I like a lot of his films that he has written and some that he's directed. As far as directing goes, Stir of Echoes, which also stars Kevin Bacon, is really good. I like Secret Window a lot. And as far as writing goes, Spider-Man, Panic Room, Jurassic Park, I've really enjoyed a lot of his screenplays. Some of them are not as good, though, Indiana Jones and the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull being a prime example. You Should Have Left is a Blumhouse production, and in some ways it follows all of the rules that Blumhouse looks for. A scare every 10 minutes or so, secluded location, limited cast, certain things that Blumhouse always wants. This movie fits into those guidelines very well. But at the same time, it doesn't, and I'll get into that. This was a vastly disappointing film for me. In a way, I approached the movie almost like it was a mashup between Secret Window and Stir of Echoes, two Koepp films. The IMDb synopsis still, as I sit here recording this review, describes this movie as a screenwriter who is going to a secluded place to finish a film that he's writing, and then crazy shit happens. And I thought to myself, wow, that's basically Secret Window, except in Secret Window, Johnny Depp plays a novelist at a secluded location, kind of losing his mind. And it's got the same team from Stir of Echoes, so it's basically Secret Window and Stir of Echoes combined. This movie's gonna be awesome. Unfortunately, this film is nothing like those movies. Not just in quality, but in story. He's definitely not a screenwriter. I don't know why that's still on IMDb. The original book this film was based off is about a screenwriter, and that synopsis seems to be written from the book synopsis, not the actual film. As far as Kevin Bacon's character, he's basically a nobody. He's defined entirely by an event in his past we know so little about, basically described to us by his wife as they talk to their young daughter. She learns about it for the first time, and she figures out her father's history, and it's this moment that's supposed to sort of develop the story, but it does very little for us. It's a movie filled with non-characters. Amanda Seyfried, I never get her name right. She is also a non-character. She plays an actress, and that's really it. She has no history. She has very little development. She's basically there as a device to get Kevin Bacon alone in the house sometimes. Technically, this is a haunted house movie, but the entire thing is shot in one of the most unscary looking houses I've seen in film recently. This is a super modern, sleek, fucking LA looking design if I've ever seen one. It's extremely well lit too. There's light everywhere. You expect darkness in a haunted house movie or a horror film or just a plain old scary movie, which this is trying to be. There's a sequence early on where he's going around the house, turning off all the lights, figuring out where all the light switches are, and even as he turns them off, there's still too much light. I was never scared once during the 93 minutes of this movie. In fact, it takes an hour, literally 1 hour, before they start to discover a mystery about the house. They start measuring the walls on the inside and the outside, and they discover that inside there's more room than on the outside. How does that happen? And I was like, okay, that's kind of fucking interesting. If only that didn't happen an hour into the movie and maybe like 20 or 25 minutes in. We're at the end of the second act, start of the third, and we're just now discovering some things about this house. For that first hour, every single scare is built around a dream sequence. The film opens with a double dream sequence. Someone wakes up, and then someone wakes up again. And I instantly was like, oh boy. So since in the original book, the main character was a screenwriter, I can only assume that Koepp decided to scrap that because he already made Secret Window, which was about a novelist kind of losing his mind in a secluded space. So I'm assuming he was like, I don't want to repeat myself, so I'll scrap that. Instead, we get nobody. I have no idea who Kevin Bacon is in this movie, or what he does, or what he wants to do, what his dreams and hopes are. I have no idea. Since his wife is an actress, I guess the assumption is that she makes the money and he stays at home. Okay, we're in 2020. I understand that happens. But for a main character in a movie to have no goals, no thoughts, no aspirations. He doesn't seem to want to do anything except go on a vacation. It's a really boring character. Eventually, the film does find an emotional core of some kind, and it starts to feel more like a drama and less like a horror. And it feels like Koepp couldn't really land on either one while making them. It's great to have drama in horror, and all great horror does, but when your film seems largely about a drama and a family dispute, a domestic dispute of some kind, that's not going to work for a scary movie. It eventually becomes less about you should have left this haunted house and more of you should leave your haunted marriage. And that's interesting, but it's too little too late. And I didn't care about these characters before, and you're not going to magically get me to care about them now. There's also tons of unanswered questions in the movie, and it seems to fall back on what 1408 falled back on, which was, we're in a crazy, fucked up location and anything can happen, right? That works in 1408. There was such a great setup between Samuel L. Jackson and John Cusack in that movie, and it was also just a really fucking good movie with a great character that I understood and I cared about. Whereas in this movie, so many things happen, like a long walking sequence with animal growls coming out of the woods, and you never really learn what that was all about. I guess we're just supposed to assume it was animals. And this long walking sequence ends up in a location and you're like, okay, I saw that coming a mile away. And that felt very 1408 as well. Those unexplained notes in his book, one of them is explained, sort of, the other isn't. And even in their attempt to explain it, it doesn't really make sense for why it happened when you start to really think about it. It throws in this unnecessary sci-fi element to it that just makes the whole thing feel really convoluted, and it's super undercooked. You never really learn anything about it. It's just this quick moment that seems almost like it was just a throwaway thing all of a sudden. The film is basically a mashup of 1408, Secret Window, and Stir of Echoes. All films I like, but it's just spare parts. There's none of the ingenuity of their previous collaboration. And it's also filled with entry-level scares for a horror movie. Shadows passing in front of the lens.
What is this place?
Oh my god, a shadow! That was worth my $20. For fuck's sake, slamming doors, dream sequences, it feels like Koepp hasn't had to impress a studio since the early 90s. It seems like once he got Jurassic Park made, he was like, okay, I'm good. I don't have to impress anyone ever again. But he still made good films into the mid-2000s. His last film he directed, Mordecai, and now this, I feel like he hasn't really had to work to get a script made in years, and I could be wrong, but if this were a spec script from an unknown writer, it would get fucking shredded and never passed on to anyone. If you emailed this script to an executive or to an agent, they wouldn't even respond to you. They would just throw it in a pile. Holy shit. This movie actually kind of pissed me off a little bit. I'm going to give You Should Have Left a D. Blumhouse has got to realize they are only as good as those prestige filmmakers that they work with, and that they just let do their thing. Like Leigh Whannell. You know, I mean, Leigh Whannell is super talented. The Invisible Man, Upgrade, Insidious, Saw. That's real talent. But when you have movies like Fantasy Island and this, Truth or Dare, and all of these shitty Black Christmas, like they're only as good as the people that work with them, unfortunately. You gotta try harder, Blumhouse. I love you, but you gotta try harder. Guys, thank you so much as always for watching. Look forward to more reviews very soon. Wow. I guess if you get me really excited for a movie that has like all the ingredients, and then I watch it and I think, I know 10 people who could have done that better and would have taken 25% of the pay that Koepp probably took, it just gets under my skin. Guys, thank you so much as always for watching. Look forward to more reviews very soon. And if you like this, you can click right here and get Stuckmanized.